Eli had always loved the quiet moments after the library closed. The soft hum of the lights, the smell of old books, and the faint rustle of pages in the wind made the place feel peaceful in a way that nothing else could. Most people in the city thought the library was old-fashioned, a relic from a time when humans read instead of scrolling through screens. But Eli knew its value. It was a place where knowledge rested, where stories lived, and where curiosity was never punished. Tonight, like many other nights, Eli had stayed behind to organize returned books and prepare for the morning. As he stacked a row of new arrivals, a strange movement caught his eye. A shadow passed near the back door, barely noticeable but distinct against the soft glow of the streetlights outside. Eli frowned and stepped closer, listening carefully. There was a faint sound, a soft whimper, almost like someone crying. At first he thought it might be a stray animal, perhaps a cat trapped behind the building, but the sound had a tone that was unmistakably human-like, or at least intelligent. Eli set down the stack of books and walked cautiously toward the back alley behind the library. The alley was narrow and dark, cluttered with trash bins and old crates. His footsteps echoed softly against the concrete. As he rounded the corner, he froze. There, crouched behind a stack of broken crates, was a figure unlike anything he had ever seen. She was tall and thin, with skin that shimmered faintly under the dim light, almost as if tiny veins of liquid light ran beneath it. Her eyes were enormous and bright, reflecting a sorrow that seemed far older than the night itself. Her shoulders shook with quiet sobs, and she clutched something close to her chest, as if it was the only thing keeping her grounded in the world. Eli's heart thumped in his chest. He had read about alien species in old texts and modern research, but nothing had prepared him for seeing one up close, hiding in his city and crying alone. "Are you okay?" Eli asked softly, stepping forward slowly. His voice trembled slightly, though he tried to keep calm. The alien woman jerked her head up, her wide eyes locking on him. Fear flashed across her face, and she pulled herself tighter into the shadows. Eli raised his hands in a peaceful gesture. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said gently. I just saw you and wanted to help." For a moment, the figure remained frozen. Then she spoke, her voice a soft melody, almost musical but heavy with sadness. "No one cares," she whispered. "No one sees me." Eli's stomach tightened. He could feel her pain, even from where he stood. "I see you," he said. "And I care. You don't have to be alone." There was a long pause. The alien, who introduced herself simply as Lyra, hesitated. She was clearly afraid of humans, and Eli knew it was not just fear of physical harm. She seemed to carry the weight of betrayal, loss, and a long journey that had left her exhausted and wary. Slowly, she allowed him to sit a few steps away from her. Eli didn't move closer. He knew trust could not be rushed. "Why are you here?" Eli asked softly. "Why hide in a library?" Lyra's voice was barely audible. "I ran from my people, from those who were supposed to protect me. They left me. They thought I was weak," she shivered, hugging herself. "I didn't belong anywhere." Eli swallowed hard. The words were simple, but the pain behind them was immense. He wanted to offer comfort, but he realized there was no way to erase centuries of fear and sorrow in a single night. Instead, he offered a quiet presence. "You're not weak," he said after a moment. "Anyone who survives what you have, anyone who hides and keeps going, that is strength, real strength." Lyra's eyes glimmered with unshed tears. She tilted her head slightly, studying him. "Why? Why do you care? Humans have hurt others before." Humans take what they want." Eli shook his head gently. Not all humans. Some do bad things, yes, but some of us, we protect, we help, we care, even when it's hard. I'm one of those. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The quiet of the night seemed to stretch endlessly, broken only by the occasional hum of distant vehicles or the faint rustle of wind. Slowly, Lyra began to relax. Her sobs softened, and she finally allowed herself to breathe without trembling. "I thought no one would ever notice," she whispered. "I thought, even if someone found me, they would only want to use me. Or hurt me." Eli nodded. "You don't have to worry about that with me. I can't promise the world will always be safe, but right now, right here, you are safe. I will help you." Lyra's eyes glimmered in the dim light, a mixture of relief and lingering fear. She studied him as if trying to measure whether he truly meant it. Finally, she said nothing but let a small, fragile hand reach toward him. Eli took it gently. Her skin was cooler than human skin, smooth with a faint glow that pulsed softly. The touch was tentative, but it spoke of a deep need for connection, for someone to simply be there. "I don't know what to do next," Lyra admitted quietly. "I don't even know where I am, or how long I can hide." Eli thought for a moment. "We'll figure it out," he said with certainty. The library has rooms, places to hide. We can find a safe spot. You won't be alone." Lyra's gaze softened, a tiny spark of hope appearing amidst her sorrow.
You? You really mean that? I do, Eli said. I don't leave people behind.
Especially those who need help the most. The night passed slowly. Eli stayed nearby, keeping an eye out for anyone who might come looking for Lyra. He brought her food and water, offered blankets to keep her warm, and told her small stories of humans who had done great things despite fear and uncertainty. Lyra listened quietly, sometimes smiling faintly, sometimes hiding her face in her hands. By morning, she had shared small pieces of her story. Her people had been advanced, traveling across galaxies, but she had been cast out during a war. She had witnessed destruction, betrayal, and the loss of everyone she cared about. Her voice was soft, but each word carried immense weight. Eli did not judge. He only listened, offering gentle reassurances that humans, unlike her people, could show kindness even in a harsh world. For the first time in a long while, Lyra felt that maybe someone did care. The city slowly woke outside the library. Morning light filtered through the high windows, illuminating rows of books and the small corner where Lyra had been hiding. She looked around at the books, curious despite her weariness. "Why do humans keep so many of these stories?" she asked, her voice almost childlike in wonder. Eli smiled, because stories teach us, remind us, and sometimes they give us hope. They show what humans are capable of, the good and the bad. And maybe they can teach other beings too. Lyra nodded slowly, her large eyes reflecting a faint light of understanding. For the first time since arriving on Earth, she allowed herself to feel a sense of belonging, however small. Eli knew the danger was far from over. Lyra was still a target, and staying hidden in a library would not be enough for long. But at that moment, seeing her not trembling, seeing her begin to trust him, he felt a surge of determination. Humans were capable of extraordinary things when they chose to care, and he was ready to prove it. "Rest for now," he said softly. "Tomorrow, we will figure out the next steps." "You are safe with me tonight." Lyra leaned back against the wall, her glowing skin casting a soft light on the floor. She closed her eyes and let herself breathe, a faint smile touching her lips for the first time in what felt like years. Eli watched her carefully, feeling the quiet strength that humans often overlooked in themselves. The strength to protect, to care, to act even when the odds seemed impossible. As the sun rose, spilling golden light into the library, Eli knew this was only the beginning. The world outside might not understand Lyra, and dangers would come, but he also knew something powerful. Humans had a way of surprising everyone, even the most advanced beings in the galaxy. And sometimes, that was enough to change the course of a life, or even a war. The morning light filtered through the library windows, painting long stripes across the wooden floors. Lyra had slept quietly in a corner, her glowing skin dimmed by exhaustion, yet still faintly luminescent. Eli watched her from across the room, making sure she was breathing evenly. He felt a mix of awe and responsibility. He had never imagined that a single encounter could carry so much weight. Protecting Lyra was more than just a matter of safety. It was a test of humanity, of what humans could do when they chose to care for someone who had been abandoned by their own people. Lyra woke slowly, blinking her large eyes at the sunlight. She looked around, taking in the bookshelves, the old reading tables, and the warm, familiar smell of paper. It was foreign, yet comforting. For a moment, she almost forgot the fear that had driven her into hiding. Eli moved closer with a small tray of food. "You should eat something," he said gently. "It will help you think clearly." Lyra hesitated. "Humans eat food even when afraid?" she asked softly, her voice still trembling but curious. Eli smiled. "We do. Sometimes it gives us courage. And it helps us plan, too." She took a small piece of bread, nibbling carefully. Her eyes never left his face. There was a quiet intelligence in her gaze, an understanding that went beyond words. She seemed to be weighing him, trying to decide if his kindness was real. Eli understood. Trust was earned, not given. "Tell me about your people," Eli said quietly after a moment. "You said you ran from them." "Why?" Lyra's hands curled into her knees. She looked down at the floor, and then up at him again. They left me behind during a war. They said I was weak, not needed. I tried to help, but they believed I could not survive. They abandoned me on a world far from our home, and I have been hiding ever since." Eli felt a tight knot in his chest. It was hard to imagine such betrayal, but he also felt admiration. To survive alone, across worlds, against fear and danger, that was strength in its purest form. "You survived," he said simply. "That means you are stronger than they ever realized. You survived, and you are still here. That is proof." Lyra's glowing skin pulsed slightly brighter. She had rarely heard anyone speak words of encouragement without judgment or selfish intent. "Humans, you do not judge immediately?" she asked, almost in disbelief. "Not all of us," Eli replied. "Some humans do terrible things, yes, but some of us protect others. Some of us care without asking for anything in return. I am one of those humans." Lyra studied him silently. The weight of centuries of mistrust seemed to press on her shoulders, yet something about Eli made her feel safe, even for a moment. She wanted to believe him. Hours passed quietly as they talked. Eli asked about her homeworld, the war, and what she remembered of her people. Lyra answered carefully, offering fragments of her story, enough to understand the danger she faced, but not enough to reveal everything. She had learned the hard way that too much information could be used against her. Eli respected her caution. "We should plan," he said eventually. "They might come looking for you. We need a safe space. Somewhere they cannot find you." Lyra's eyes widened slightly. "Safe space? On this world?" Ellie nodded. "Yes. The library has many rooms. Some quiet, some hidden. I can make a place for you where no one will look." For the first time since arriving on Earth, Lyra allowed herself to feel a glimmer of hope. It was fragile, but it was real. She followed Eli as he led her to a small storage room behind a false bookshelf. It was cramped but secure, with a window that allowed a little light and air. He brought blankets, cushions, and small containers of water. "This will do for now," he said. "It is not much, but it is safe. We can think of something better soon." Lyra nodded, still absorbing the comfort and care that Eli offered. She had spent so long hiding, so long fearing betrayal, that this small act of kindness felt almost miraculous. As the day passed, Ellie noticed her curiosity growing. She touched the books, flipping through pages with delicate fingers, fascinated by words and illustrations she had never seen. She asked questions about Earth, about humans, about how they lived and thought. Eli answered patiently, explaining things in the simplest terms without talking down to her. He realized that she was intelligent and quick to learn, but she had never been given a chance to understand the humans she feared. By evening, Eli had brought a small lamp and set it near her hiding spot. The warm light reflected off her glowing skin, creating a soft, ethereal aura. She sat quietly, reading a book Eli had chosen, occasionally looking up at him as if absorbing the safety and care surrounding her. Suddenly, a soft noise echoed from outside the library. Eli's ears twitched, and he stood quickly. "Stay here," he whispered. "Do not make a sound." Lyra's large eyes went wide. "They are here?" she asked in a hushed voice. "I do not know yet," Eli said, "but we must be careful." He moved to a small window and peered outside. There, in the alley, he saw faint figures moving with purpose. They were not human. Their shapes were angular, their movements precise, almost mechanical, but still organic. Eli's heart raced. He knew immediately that these were the hunters Lyra had feared. They had come for her. Eli returned to Lyra, keeping his voice calm. "They are here," he said softly. "But we can handle this. We must stay quiet and think." Lyra nodded, her hands clutching the book in her lap. Fear flickered in her eyes, but she also seemed to draw strength from Eli's calm presence. She had seen humans act recklessly, yes, but she had never seen one so determined to protect another being without expecting anything in return. Eli quickly surveyed the room. There were shelves, crates, and stacks of old furniture. He began moving things quietly, creating barriers and hiding places. "If they come inside," he whispered, "we can make them think no one is here." Lyra watched, learning quickly. "Humans are clever," she said. "I never thought survival could rely on simple thinking and careful planning. My people, they depend on power, on weapons. You use your mind." Eli smiled faintly. "Sometimes the mind is the most powerful weapon we have." The night grew darker, and the hunters' shadows moved closer to the building. Eli stayed near the door, listening. He could hear the soft clicks and hums of their movement, their presence deliberate and patient. Lyra sat beside him, silent, but alert. Her confidence grew as she observed his calm, precise actions. Hours passed. The hunters moved away after sensing no immediate threat inside the library. Eli exhaled quietly, relieved but aware that this was only the beginning. They would come back, stronger and more prepared. Lyra looked at him, her large eyes reflecting the soft glow of the lamp. "Humans, you do not run when there is danger?" she asked, curious. Eli shook his head. We protect. We fight with our minds, our courage, and sometimes with our hearts. That is what makes us strong." Lyra thought about this. She had been abandoned by her people, left to fend for herself, and yet she had survived. But humans were different. They did not rely on superior technology or strength alone. They relied on something deeper: compassion, intelligence, and an unyielding determination to help others. She felt something she had not felt in a long time: trust. By dawn, Lyra was tired but calmer. Eli brought her food and water again, and they sat quietly, sharing stories of Earth and her distant world. The bond between them grew slowly but surely. Lyra began to see humans not as predators or fools, but as beings capable of extraordinary care and ingenuity. Eli, in turn, learned from Lyra. Her stories of interstellar travel, alien cultures, and survival gave him a broader perspective on the galaxy and humanity's place within it. He realized that humans were often underestimated, even by themselves. Yet when they chose to act with courage, kindness, and intelligence, they could change the world, or even touch distant stars. As the sun rose fully, casting warm light across the library, Eli knew that the days ahead would not be easy. Lyra's enemies would return, more relentless and prepared, but he also knew something powerful. Humans could stand against overwhelming odds when they worked together, when they used their minds, and when they chose to care. And tonight, he had proven that even to someone who had lost all hope. Lyra looked at him, her glowing skin faintly brightening in the morning sun. "I think I can trust you," she said softly. Eli smiled. "And I will not let you down. No matter what comes next, we face it together." For the first time since she had arrived on Earth, Lyra allowed herself to hope. The library, the quiet, the human who cared for her. It was a small world of safety in a galaxy that had been cruel. And for Eli, protecting her was not just a duty. It was a reminder of what humans were capable of, what they could be when they acted with courage, intelligence, and heart. Outside, the city moved on, unaware that an alien woman hid safely behind a library, learning to trust again. And inside, two unlikely allies prepared silently for the challenges that were sure to come. The library was quiet again, but the tension hung heavy in the air. Eli moved with care, checking the windows and doors to make sure nothing had changed since the night before. Lyra sat in her small hiding corner, her eyes alert, her body still glowing faintly from the stress and fatigue of the previous night. Although she had slept better, the fear of being discovered never left her entirely. Eli could see it in the slight tremble of her hands and the way she watched every shadow with caution. "We need to think ahead," Eli said softly, kneeling beside her. "They'll come back, and next time they will be more prepared." Lyra nodded slowly. "You humans, you think before acting. My people, they rush in with force. But you use your mind. It is strange, but impressive." Eli smiled. "It works more often than you'd think. We may not have advanced weapons, but we have something they cannot always predict. Creativity, teamwork, and courage." Lyra tilted her head. "Curious? Creativity, courage, teamwork. These you use to survive?" "Yes," Eli said. "And to protect. Tonight, we practice that." They began to plan. Eli moved bookshelves, stacked crates, and created clever hiding spots that could double as traps if the hunters entered. Lyra observed, her eyes wide, fascinated by how he turned ordinary objects into security measures. "Your mind is sharp," she said quietly. "I did not expect humans to be so clever." Eli shrugged modestly. "We survive because we have to. Sometimes that makes us more resourceful than those who rely only on strength or technology." Hours passed, and they refined their plan. Eli taught Lyra how to use small distractions to mislead intruders. She practiced moving quietly, blending with the shadows, and even setting simple alarms using objects from the library. Though she had been trained by her own people, her knowledge of human environments was limited. Eli's instructions were simple, practical, and surprisingly effective. As the afternoon sun dipped toward the horizon, Eli and Lyra heard it, a faint hum outside, different from before. It was methodical, deliberate, and carried a cold presence. The hunters had returned. Eli motioned for Lyra to stay low and follow his instructions carefully. When the first hunter stepped into the alley, Eli had already moved crates to create false barriers, forcing them to split and search in different directions. The hunter paused, scanning the area, confused by the unexpected layout. Eli whispered to Lyra, "Stay behind me. Do exactly what I say." Lyra nodded, her pulse quickening. She had never experienced this kind of threat so directly, yet she trusted Eli completely. Humans, she realized, were unpredictable in ways her own people never were. They could think, adapt, and use their environment in ways she had never imagined. Eli used the library's narrow passages to their advantage. He led the hunters toward dead ends, then quickly doubled back, confusing them further. Lyra followed silently, her glowing skin dimmed, her large eyes scanning for any danger. She was learning to rely on human ingenuity, and the realization gave her a strange thrill. Humans could be weak, yes, but they could also be brilliant. The hunters split up, moving cautiously through the building. Eli had anticipated this. He had placed stacks of books and furniture in positions that would block their line of sight, forcing them to move slowly and making noise when they tried to step around obstacles. One hunter paused, its sensors detecting movement, and Eli quickly dropped a pile of books in another hallway. The noise drew the hunter away, giving him and Lyra time to move safely. "You are clever," Lyra whispered, awed by the precision of his movements. "My people, they would have used weapons. You use thinking." Eli nodded, barely pausing. Brains over brawn, always. "Now move." The hunters were relentless, but Eli remained calm. He led Lyra to a hidden storage room behind a false wall, a space so small it could barely hold them. Inside, they crouched quietly. Eli checked the door and listened to the distant hum of the hunters outside. "They will search again," he whispered. "We cannot stay here forever, but we can make it hard for them. We need to think 2 steps ahead." Lyra's eyes glimmered. "Humans, you fight without fighting. You survive without weapons. My people would not understand this." Eli smiled faintly. Sometimes survival is about outthinking your enemy, not overpowering them. And sometimes it's about protecting someone who cannot protect themselves. The night grew darker, and the hunters' patience began to show. They moved carefully, scanning every corner, every shadow. Eli and Lyra waited silently, hearts pounding, knowing that a single mistake could reveal them. But as they waited, Lyra began to understand something profound. Humans were not merely strong or brave. They were resourceful, patient, and capable of extraordinary empathy. Eli was a living example of that, and it gave her hope that she could survive here. Hours passed, and the hunters finally retreated, unable to locate their target. Eli let out a quiet sigh of relief, but he knew this victory was temporary. The hunters would return, more prepared, more determined. "We need a plan for when they come again," he said softly. "Something that will give us an advantage." Lyra nodded. "I can help." "I know. Things my people used. Technology, strategies. I can show you." Eli raised an eyebrow. "Then let's combine what you know with what we can do here. Humans think differently, but together, maybe we can create something they won't expect." For the next several hours, they worked together. Eli used his knowledge of the library, its structure, and human creativity, while Lyra contributed insights from her advanced species. Together, they created decoys, traps, and hidden passages, blending alien knowledge with human ingenuity. The room became a small command center of strategy and preparation. Lyra's respect for humans grew with every passing moment. She realized that humans were underestimated, often dismissed as fragile or primitive, yet their ability to adapt, create, and care made them formidable in ways her people could not predict. Eli, in turn, learned from Lyra, incorporating techniques that were both clever and practical. Together they became a team, their strengths complementing each other perfectly. As dawn approached, Eli and Lyra took a moment to rest. Lyra sat quietly, her glowing skin dimmed in exhaustion. but her eyes bright with understanding. "Humans, you are not weak," she said softly. "You are more than I expected." Eli smiled, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "And you are stronger than you know. We make a good team. Together we can face anything." For the first time since arriving on Earth, Lyra felt hope without fear. She had found someone who cared for her without expecting anything in return. Someone who could think, plan, and act with intelligence and compassion. And she realized that humans, despite their flaws, were capable of extraordinary heroism. Outside, the city slept, unaware that a battle had been fought within the library walls, not with weapons or violence, but with courage, creativity, and careful planning. Eli and Lyra had survived the night, strengthened by their growing trust in each other. The hunters would return, but so would their determination. And when they did, Eli and Lyra would be ready, not just to survive, but to show that even against overwhelming odds, humans could triumph through intelligence, compassion, and courage. Lyra looked at Eli, her large eyes reflecting the first light of morning. "I think I can trust humans," she said quietly. Eli nodded. "And I will not let you down, no matter what comes next. We face it together." The sun rose higher, filling the library with light. For Eli and Lyra, it was a new beginning, a chance to prove that humanity could be more than what others believed. They were not just survivors, they were thinkers, protectors, and friends, and together they would face whatever came next. Outside, the world moved on, unaware of the alien woman hiding in the library, learning to trust again. Inside, two unlikely allies prepared silently, ready for the challenges that were sure to come, and ready to show that humans, when united by courage and heart, could achieve the impossible.